Have you ever wondered what a fund manager actually does to earn their fees? We've all seen the slick marketing, but what really goes on inside the trading floors of Britain's investment managers? I'm Sam Benstead from Interactive Investor, and I've been given exclusive access to some of the biggest investment firms in the country. Today I'm meeting Eva Sun-Wai, Deputy Manager of the M&G Global Macro Bond Fund and Manager of the M&G Global Government Bond Fund. M&G is regarded as one of the leading bond investors in the country, looking after more than 120 billion in fixed income investments. Come with me to find out what a day in the life of a fund manager is really like. Hi Sam, nice to meet you.
Eva, nice to meet you. No problem.
Eva, thanks very much for having us in the M&G offices. It's great to be here. So today we're looking at a day in the life of a fund manager. We're trying to figure out what a fund manager really does. Before we go there, can you give us a quick overview of who you are and what you do at M&G?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Eva Sun-Wai. I'm a fund manager here at M&G, so I'm lead on the M&G Global Government Bond Fund, and I'm also deputy on one of our flagship strategies, the Global Macro Bond Fund, which is ran by Jim Levis as well, and I've been doing that since 2021, but I've been in the team since 2019.
So what does a typical day look like then?
It's an interesting question because there's not really a typical day, and that's part of the appeal of the job, in that obviously markets are different every single day. We don't have a kind of meetings can change every day according to how many client meetings you have, how many meetings with strategists and analysts you have. Usually in and starting for around 8 a.m, 8:15, markets open at 8:30, so you kind of want to be in and ready and set up and have already digested your morning information before markets open. We have a daily morning meeting every day at 9 a.m. for the fixed income floor as a whole, so that's really good because it gives an insight from the dealers in terms of what they've seen kind of in the overnight markets and in terms of what has come through that very morning. We get updates from the analysts who cover a variety of different credits, so in case there's been a particular news item, earnings release, or whatever from the corporates in their space that they cover. Also have updates from different fund managers on different days in terms of what they've been doing that week, and then you have a few sporadic meetings that come here and there, so again, so it really does vary.
You have your morning meetings where you're discussing the macro, but are you also out in the city meeting with debt issuers? Less
so much issuers for me in terms of when they're issuing, in terms of roadshows, etc. We do try and meet with the governments or central banks that we obviously invest in. I think on the fund management side we meet more with strategists, analysts, as well as the issuers themselves. So, you want to get a nice holistic picture of as much as you can.
And how often are you trading in a week, and what is that process?
It will vary week to week. I'd say you at least will trade daily pretty much, even if it's just rebalancing or something a bit more managing flows or cash management. You're always trading in some way. It would be quite rare to not trade at all in 1 week, but then some weeks when markets are very volatile or there's lots going on or your views change quickly, you can trade lots in a week, so it does vary.
And you work for M&G, which is a big fund manager with a big bond team. How do you work with other parts of the company and other parts of the fixed income team?
Yeah, well, it's a huge kind of network, and it's a huge team effort, I would say, not only with just the FMs on the desk or the direct specialists or the fund manager assistants that we work with, but we also work a lot with the risk team, for example, so we have quarterly risk meetings. It's a real network of lots of really important people from back office all the way to front office.
Sounds very busy. Is there time to relax and think and just figure out what's going on and then make trading decisions based off that?
Yeah, and I think that was a big learning curve of the job, in that you don't just have the time to sit at the desk and form an investment view. Even on the pure fund management side, even at the desk, you know, there is an admin side to fund management, you know, cash management, flow management, etc., liquidity management. Many times when you may not be, you know, constantly watching the markets, but I think that's why you have to really be interested in the asset class that you're in, because we don't work a typical 9 to 5, you know, the day can look very different. So that's why, you know, we really value a team approach, we really value having lots of eyes, you know, looking at the markets at all times, you know, because even though the markets are open at a certain time, you just can't necessarily predict what's going to happen, and obviously you have different hours globally according to, you know, what's going on. So.
And what time are you normally finishing, and are you travelling much after work as well?
Varies. Mostly it will be somewhere around 6ish. I think that's pretty standard in public markets, given obviously the market's shut at certain times, but there's always things you can look at, you know, markets never ending, and when our market's shut in the UK, the US markets are still open, so it may be a bit later if, for example, there's, you know, a Fed meeting that's being announced at 7, or, you know, an election in, you know, that side of the world or whatever, so it varies. Or sometimes it could be, I could come in earlier if I've got a meeting with Asia, if I'm talking to someone from Japan or Hong Kong, etc.
And after work, what do you do to unwind?
Have to brave the Northern Line first of all, so then you need to unwind after that. I love to cook, I love to read, I love to binge watch series, so, you know, quite typical.
Eva, that's been fascinating. Have you got time to show us around?
Yeah, no problem.
So is this the head office then?
Yeah, so this is our head office in London, take up a variety of floors, and yes, where all the magic happens. This is our colleague Nick.
Hi,
How are you
good
doing?
to see
Sam
you.
from Interactive
Hi
Investor.
Eva, Nick Smallwood, good to meet you. I'm on the Emerging Markets Debt team here at M&G.
Ah, interesting. So how does your job differ from Eva's then?
Eva's much more macro in the way she approaches things. We have to take, I guess, a more multi-layered view. So we look at hard currency, local currency in the sovereign world, as well as hard currency corporate. Our first decision usually is which country we want to invest in, and then having decided which country we want to be in, we then decide do you want to be in the hard currency, sovereign, local currency, or the corporate elements of that.
Emerging markets, are you travelling a lot then?
Yeah, we travel a fair bit. We do 2 research trips a year to different parts of the world. I'm actually off to the Middle East in a couple of weeks' time to meet 30-35 issuers and discuss what's going on in the region. A colleague of mine's just got back from Brazil, so we're a 5-strong team, and between us we try to get across as much of our investment universe as we can.
I've been talking to Eva about her typical day. What does your typical day look like?
So there isn't really a typical day because it's a very multifaceted role. So some days we are very much at the desk, crunching numbers, looking through data, making investment choices. Other times we might be travelling for research purposes, as I've just described. Sometimes we're meeting clients. I've just been marketing in East Anglia for the retail market for 3 days. And letting them know how we manage their funds, how we manage their money, letting them know that, you know, they are front of mind, because that's very important for us, obviously, to maintain client trust and client relationships. So we really do what we're called to do.
And before I let you go, what are the best and worst parts of your day?
The best part of the day, I personally like interacting with people, so I've most enjoyed meeting with either company management or with clients and having discussions about markets with them, because you always learn stuff from those discussions. Worst part of the day, probably discovering that the coffee machine's broken again.
Nick, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
That's been really, really interesting.
No
Thanks so much
problem.
for having us in.
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
See you soon.
See ya.
Bye.